Hey everyone, it's Joe Lines, and I think this is week 9 of what I automated this week. I think I missed last week. I've been sick. Anyway, so as I mentioned in the webinar, I had been automating with this API for Ring Central. Ring Central, I'm basically using it for a tool to use for voicemails. So we're voice broadcasting out with a different tool, and then the phone number is actually under Ring Central, even though the calls aren't originating from there. The phone number that people think it's coming from is from Ring Central, and then they can either press a number to transfer to a person, or they can call it back, and that's the voicemail aspect of it, which also does texting and a couple other things with their API. So this here, by the way, is the OAuth 2. You know, I want to demonstrate a little bit of things because I got hung up on it a little bit. Thankfully, Maestrith helped me solve some of this stuff because it's still over my head, but at least I understand what had to get done. So I put as normal, I put my key token values and secret and stuff into an ini file. That way I can share this and you guys don't see it. I don't have to worry about changing things. So read those in as variables. Here's the first part of it. It says to base 64 encode, take your API ID and put it with the API secret, and then concatenate those together with the colon in between the two, and then base 64 encode them. Well, first off, I've heard of base 64 before. It's some sort of an encoding algorithm that'll take text or anything and encode it into it's just an encoding algorithm. What was interesting was that there was no mention in there of the no line feed, and so the base 64 encoder algorithm I was using was returning line feeds. And so let me open. So this is the encoding algorithm. And there's several of these you can find on the forum. What was interesting though is that this is from Maestrith. His is much more tight. Is down to, of course, 3 lines. But apparently, I think it was right here. This 4 being in here, it's not a color. Don't get hung up on that. But that is what tells it is when you return this, hey, strip out the line feeds. One is like in this thing, there's nothing mentioning it, but also in the directions and the instructions from Ring Central, they didn't mention anything about line feed and this and that. And so, thankfully, Maestrith knew what he's doing, and we got it to work by using this encoding algorithm instead of the one that returns the line feeds. I'm still not 100% certain if I had just stripped out the line feeds, if it would have given me exactly the same text. It probably would have. But again, why isn't that mentioned in their documentation? So I just want to bring it up of like, hey, there's just always little things, right? And so here I'm getting the OAuth authentication. So I basically, after I base 64 encode those, I build my query string with my password and username and stuff. And then I create the COM object. I'm going, and here's the other one that hung me up for a while, by the way. We have a demo account. We're trying it out for like a month. Actually, it's like due today. But all of their documentation is going straight to the endpoint for the actual real one. But because we had a demo account, they're like, hey, you can't have access to the API for your account, so you have to use the development platform. So that actually, see right here where it says dev test? This endpoint right here is different than all their documentation, because their documentation for getting OAuth isn't for the development environment, it's for the normal environment. But they didn't mention in there, hey, if you have a development environment, you need to ping this endpoint instead of the normal one. So that's the other thing that got me hung up for a while. So anyway, so you pass it along, you pass in that this is the out, which is what created up here, this base 64 encoding on the authorization in the header. And then because it's a post request right here, you put it in the payload instead of on the open here as a parameter here. So we pass the payload. Then here's the other. So this was the response, which I'll get a new one anyway. So I don't have to worry about that. But the data returns back as a JSON string, and I could have loaded that into an object and then grabbed exactly what I wanted, but I said, you know what, it's just a couple lines. I'm going to parse it. And first I loop over it, and then I said, let me get the loop over it line by line. If it's a second line, which it seemed very consistent, always was, then I'm going to parse it on the double quote. The problem was Str split. I couldn't figure it. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I couldn't figure it out. So first I'm parsing it on the colon, and then on the double. But the double quote, what I did was I put it here where the needle equals, and so my variable needle equals a single double quote, if that makes any sense. And then I put it here to Str split on it. I couldn't figure out. I tried it with 2 and with 3 and with 4, and it just didn't seem to work. I also tried it with like x22, I think, /x22. I'm sure there's a way to do it. And anyway, this worked, so I really don't care, right? So when I run this, it goes and updates. It gives me my new token value, and then it writes it to the bearer key in my OAuth, replacing it in basically my ini file, which I'm not going to share. But it goes and does all this for me. And then once I have that, I can come in here. Let's go to this script. So now that I have a valid OAuth authentication, I can go ahead and here's an example where I'm going to send a text from, this is my Ring Central phone number, and I'm going to send it to, this is my Google Voice phone number. So please don't call me. But anyway, I'm going to say hello world, and this is the entire call, right? So it's beautiful. I love this kind of simple stuff. So I'm gonna launch it. So it's launched. I'm gonna hit my hotkey. Now here it's saying blah blah blah, like basically it went through. And in the second here, it'll pop up on the other screen. Hopefully I can let me bring it down. Oh, it's in Hangouts. I can't. Let me click it, and then I'll bring the whole window down. But you'll see it actually, and of course because it's a development account, which later today I'm actually switching. I should have switched first, I guess. But you see they preface it with test SMS using Ring Central Developer account, and then hello world. But it was that easy to send the text, right? I mean, that's the entire, other than a couple other things hidden in the background for the functions. Super tiny, very concise. I love it. So I can automate texting, right? A bunch of people. The other cool one is, let me go to, where's it here? Not get bearer, phone call. So this is really cool. I think I can Ring Central. I get a phone number. I get my phone number, which I don't actually see it here, but it was on the other page. And that's a phone number that people will see, that caller ID. Well, I can have Ring Central call like my phone, and then after it connects to my phone, have it dial a different number, and then it's going to connect the two. So I can actually, and I can pick any phone numbers. It's really crazy to me. I could, like, if you gave me your phone number, I could have my phone number call your phone and then connect you to whoever I want to and make it look like it's coming through my phone number. So let me exit out of this, and I'll demonstrate it here real quick just because it's fun. So now it says it's in progress. So in a second here, my phone's going to ring. Oh, and now it's ringing. So I'm going to answer it. I'll put it on speaker here. And right now, you hear it ringing. Now it's calling my Hangouts number. And I can see that on my other screen. And now it's ringing on my phone too. And there we go. Hear it on the computer. So, anyway, I'm going to hang up, but you get the idea, right? I can simulate, connect other phone numbers using my phone or whoever's phone I want, right? So it's pretty cool. There's other things I'm going to be doing with this, but I thought that's a pretty cool example of how powerful APIs are and flexible and easy, right? I mean, once I figured out the OAuth, which is 9 out of 10 times, that's the hardest part for me, is getting that stupid OAuth thing working right. But yeah, so those two I've been working on. Another one, let me see which, where are the files? This isn't necessarily AutoHotkey, but it is something that came up. So we were, as I mentioned, we were calling a bunch of phone numbers, and what I wanted to do was to see how many people call us back from the same number that we called. And so these are the phone numbers, and there's roughly 1,000 37 or something like that in each file. I have a program that will randomly, I had a list of like 30,000 phone numbers. And then I said, I want a group of roughly about 1,000 each one. And so it needs to be random, because otherwise you'll see patterns and you don't want that to confuse your results. So it randomly broke my entire 34,000 list of phone numbers into groups of roughly, I said create 34 files. And so it randomized them and then grouped them for me. And then we loaded this into our other tool that's making the phone calls. But I wanted to say I was able to export a log file, which actually I don't know where I saved that. Maybe it's on my desktop, or maybe it's here. No. Anyway, I don't have to do that part of it, but I did want to show you one thing that it's a cool little hack that I do. Yeah, I could have used AutoHotkey to merge. I need all these together, so because I wanted to see. Here were the probably around 9,000 phone numbers we called, and then I had a list of the calls in we had, and I wanted to see how many overlap. So what's really cool is I'm in this folder. If I hit Control-Shift-P, it will. I have a script. Let's go. Where is it? I think it's in this one. Yeah. So Control-Shift-P. Says command prompt here, and basically here's a function, explorer, get path, here's the path to it if you want to get it from the forum. And it says, hey, take the active explorer window and get the path to that folder, and then I basically run a DOS command telling it to change directory to go to that path. So I can just hit Control-Shift-P, and my command prompt launches in that folder. I don't have to navigate with DOS to it, which isn't that hard, but when it's this long, right, it's kind of a pain. What I love, though, is this little, and I think I can do it from memory. So what you can do is just say copy star.txt, and then I just give it the new name to merged.txt. Oops. .txt. Now, when I do this, what it does is it takes every file that matched that pattern, which was these 8 files, and it dumps them. Notice this one is 356K, right? So I just simply merged all those together. Now, the one bad thing about this is because there's a header, if we search for this, we'll find this 7 more times, right? Because it's in each one. But honestly, I don't really care, right? I can come in here, copy this. Excel's a great, easy one to do something like this with. So I'll paste it because it's tabs unlimited. Excel automatically parses on tabs. And then I'm going to remove duplicates, and I'm going to remove it based off of the phone number, which will take care of my multiple header. Come on. So there were 6 duplicates, and that was the header rows, basically, because I had already removed all duplicates. And so now here are all the phone numbers that I had called, and then I could just take the log file of the people that called us, dump them in here on a row, and then run my dedupe again, and that would actually tell me how many were duplicates, and duplicates just mean they were in basically both, right? So it's a really easy way to go through and figure that out. It's not scientific, I don't have tracking behind it, right, or a nice file for it, but for this purpose, I don't really care. I was curious how many people call us back from the same number that we got. And great, now I just shared my OAuth, my secret, so now I can go, actually, you know what, that's all the developer account anyway, so it's going away. So I could change it, but it's a developer account, and it's not tied to me. But anyway, so don't have that open when you're recording your stuff. That's about all I can think of right now. Let me see if there was anything else in here. What I do every week is I use this program called File Search X, and it's unfortunately it's not free, but I bought it a long time ago. But what's nice is the search. It's easy to say. I come in here and say, give me all AutoHotkey files in the last 7 days, and then I can see what I've worked on. And so that's how I knew I worked in the Ring Central stuff. I did update my Excel library a little bit, which I went over in the webinar, but basically I added a sort by row, so I can sort things across rows instead of columns. That was one that I didn't have in that function library of mine. But that's about it. The other stuff I reviewed on the webinar. And yeah, I've just been plugging along. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe by next week I'll be doing some more stuff and getting back into actually getting some work done. So that's it. Have a great day. See ya.